The movie opens with a bunch of toxic waste cans submerged underwater, surrounded by fish. Piles of dumped waste begin to leak and flow into the waterways. Another few cans are dumped into the water off the side of a dock by men in white suits, clearly trying not to handle the actual chemicals. It's happening in the dead of night, where no one can see them. A man, named Max, in a trench coat, can be seen watching the behavior from a pair of binoculars, seemingly pleased. A local city councilman says he no longer wants to play a part, but Max says they're relocating, saying that the paint thinner they're dropping into the water needs to be disposed of. He tries to pay the politician off, but he refuses to take the money. This angers the shady businessman who says the politician can kiss his re-election goodbye. The councilman drives off, pulling a tape deck from his pocket to reveal that he caught the conversation on tape, planning to expose the whole operation. Elsewhere, a man wakes up next to a woman on the beach. She asks him, the man named James St. James, to leave his surfboard so she can go surf with it, and he reluctantly agrees. Another man, named Carl Taylor, from his apartment window, shoots at a billboard of the politician from before, hating politics. He gets a call from work, angry that he's late. Taking his time, he gets a pair of binoculars to watch the apartment across the way, taking in the sights of people in their homes, mostly attractive women, with a few fellow peeping toms. He stops on a woman with curly hair in a robe, getting ready for her day, making coffee as Carl swoons after her. James is waiting in the garbage truck for his partner, Carl, who shows up late. The two of them get ready for their route as James complains about his recent breakup. They hit another trash truck while backing up, causing the airbags to go off when they open the glove compartment, something of a prank played by another team of trash collectors. Elsewhere, the curly-haired woman is working for the politician as his campaign manager, opening a tape she's gotten in the mail. The politician, Berger, is stressed over his altercation with the shady businessman. He hastily signs the paperwork, telling her he trusts her judgment and that she's doing a great job. The two garbage men on their route are still commiserating over their life. They're known by local police to cause trouble on the route, making noises and tossing cans all over. James explains that he got dumped because she couldn't be with the garbage man, and the two talk about their plans. They want to open a surf shop together, culminating several years of working and promising. Suddenly, they're interrupted by two police on bikes, one training the other. Carl and James are used to the bullying, shrugging off the behavior because Mike, the police officer, tends to harass them often. On break, they discuss their future plans. The Carl and James surf shop, and how their work as garbage men is a step towards their dreams. They argue for a bit about whether or not they're doing enough work after being briefly distracted by a woman in a bathing suit and insulting each other back and forth. On the beach, Carl asks what James means about him being hopeless. Still dressed in their work uniforms, the two strip down to their swimsuits underneath and go surfing. Elsewhere, the politician goes to the local police station with his tape, frantically ready to expose the toxic dumping. He expresses his concern, though he quickly realizes he brought the wrong tape, having mistakenly swapped it with the campaign manager. Unfortunately, the police chief has been paid off and immediately exposes Berger's plan to expose the toxic dumping. After completing their shift, they're on probation for disruptive antics and will be accompanied by an observer on future shifts. The observer is the brother-in-law of their supervisor, Luis. At their shared apartment after work, the two spy on Susan Wilkins, a woman seemingly being mistreated by a man. Once she leaves the room, Carl tries to play the hero and, in the form of payback, shoots the man with a pellet gun aimed at his behind. The two men laugh about it and turn away, missing as a few men break into the apartment, strangle the man, and drag him away. The thugs take the body, stuff it in a barrel, putting the barrel in the car. However, the barrel falls out of the car due to turbulent driving. The two begin their next day, not having seen the altercation the night before. James begins adding pharmaceuticals and other things to his morning coffee. On their drive, they meet their new observer, Louis, who's an intense and volatile Vietnam vet. He's a surly man who's uninterested in talking to them, snapping when they become too chatty. They have a few tense moments where Carl speaks out of turn, but Louis seems to enjoy that, causing many of them to start laughing before he gets stony-faced again and begins wailing on him across the car. In the diner's bathroom, Carl and James complain to each other about Luis, unsure about how to handle the intense man. He waits for them in a booth, completing an intricate drawing, not taking notes the way they thought. James seems unable to keep it together, snapping at Luis at every turn, putting them on the wrong foot immediately. His intense behavior doesn't end there. The man becomes unreasonably angry when James tries to steal his french fries. While on their route, many discover the yellow barrel, meant to be brought by the thugs before. It's too heavy to lift, so Carl is interested and opens the barrel to see why. He panics and brings James over. Luis follows soon after and realizes who he's dealing with. They know it's a local politician, and this causes even more panic for the three of them. Carl and James realizes it's the same guy from the night before, quickly concluding that Carl must have killed the man with his shot the night before. Carl and James begin fighting, escalating into a physical altercation. Luis has to pull them apart, stopping where he was propping up Berger. He explains that the man didn't die from a shot, but was rather strangled to death. They don't have a chance to talk about it for long because Mike and his new bike officer partner show up and begin hassling them. The men don't want to include the police because the whole situation is messy and they don't want to be implicated. They lie quickly, saying that the mystery man is their drunk cousin who is still messed up from the night before. The intense conversation stops and luckily it works, but the bike officers have it out for them. James is freaked out, wanting to just tell the cops what happened. Back in the alley, the thugs from the night before go looking for the body, but the yellow can is nowhere to be found. They return to their boss, bringing the tape with them, which sets the businessman's mind at ease. It only works for a second though, because quickly he realizes it's not the tape he thought, and he, like the politician, was bamboozled. The two are getting ready, trying to suss out who knows what happened. Carl goes to the woman from the night before, and James wants to go to the police. Carl offers an ultimatum, walking off, and the other two men are soon to follow. Luis hates cops and takes control of the situation as they stash the body at their place. Carl keeps an eye out, watching for the woman, Susan, to come home, so he can meet her at her apartment building. They hit it off quickly, spontaneously deciding to go for a night drive. In a fit of frenzy and mania, Luis makes things worse by kidnapping a pizza delivery man who, unfortunately, saw James with a body, not falling for their attempt to cover it up. Overwhelmed by the issues, James makes an attempt to call the police and explain what's happened, but Luis quickly unplugs the phone, dragging the group and the body into a car to trail after Susan and Carl. Hot on their tail, the men in the body are pulled over by the overzealous bike cops. They trick the men into dropping their weapons, tying the partners up to the jungle gym equipment. They yell threats, but Luis isn't afraid of anything. Carl and Susan go to the beach, quickly realizing that they were discovered by Biff and Mario, the thugs from earlier who attempted to kidnap Susan. They're paraded in front of a corrupt businessman, Max Rotterdam III. Berger was originally covering for him, and Maxwell had him killed when he tried to back out. Elsewhere, Carl and Susan are being stuffed into cans to be dropped into the water or used as a toxic dump site. James won't let it happen, crashing his truck into the side of the facility to get the best of the situation. Carl's barrel falls off the truck, but he's not freed. He reunites with James, and the two of them grab onto the truck carrying Susan, Luis, the pizza delivery guy, and the politician's body. Carl frees Susan, and the lot of them can break down Rotterdam's empire together and expose him for the murder they're holding in their hands. The plan continues and the men sneak the body out effortlessly, stuffing it into the cab of a car. Carl and James, along with Luis and Berger's body, can neutralize Rotterdam's goon squad by acting volatile and erratic with guns. They force the men to drop their weapons, and it turns into a stick-up with James and Carl. James is nearing the end of his wits when the police show up. However, it's less the police and more the pizza guy and Luis. Unfortunately, they expose that the men have pellet guns rather than actual weapons. The men split up. Carl is hell-bent on finding Susan and saving her no matter what, while James fights off the other men with Luis. They can save everyone in time, and the businessman ends up with toxic chemicals on his skin. In the end, there's trash all over, and we pan to see the officers still tied on the gym equipment. A dog approaches them, but that's not all. It eventually decides to pee on them. As the credits roll, there's a radio show of a woman calling in her boyfriend she's convinced is cheating, but it's just the pizza guy they kidnapped and never returned home. And that's gonna wrap things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this recap as much as we did. If you liked the video and want to look into other movies with us, then be sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. That way you won't miss a single video.